It's time to summarize what we've been through. Stick around. Welcome back. So, this is the end of Freedom 101. So, what have we talked about here in this Freedom 101? We've talked about happiness. We talked about how we have positive emotions in the day and we have negative emotions, but the negative emotions are 3 times more powerful, so we need to concentrate on those and we need to bring those into control. We talked about how when we're too far out of balance, when we're off the scales, how we have to bring ourselves back in with a coping mechanism, and then if we're too far off too long, we develop unhealthy coping mechanisms to try to bring it in, but then we develop addictions, and those addictions, while they're good at first, but then later on they don't do us any good because the underlying issue hasn't been dealt with. Then we talked about where those underlying conditions can be, the patterns and the triggers, and how those still are happiness, and how they're not there for our happiness, but they're there to remind us that it's time to take care of this, to process through this. Then we talked about the safe spaces and allowing yourself a space to heal, which is so important. Then we went on to talk about the subconscious and how it holds the model of our world, that how the model of our world can be queried, we can ask it questions, that its goal is to hold only truth, that it has a guard to try to protect, and that when we hold something in the subconscious model of our world that doesn't match what reality is, that will eventually end up with frustration, anger, negative emotions, those sorts of things. The subconscious, we talked about its goals and how it wants to keep us alive. It's really trying to help us. And when we work against it, it doesn't work out for us, but when we work with it, it does work better. Then we talked about tapping, and we had a real life example with Jeff helping us out there. He showed us what it's like to go through that process and how powerful it really is. Going from that 8 to a 3, it helped him to go, I think he could go sit in a dentist chair now. He's still going to feel some anxiety. I don't doubt it. And there's probably some more work that we could do with him. And in the honest truth, I would probably use the work with him to go and pull out those beliefs and work. But at the same time, he feels that massive anxiety. He might not be able to do the work. So helping him to tap through that and bring those emotions down probably brings him into a better state so that he can go off and do the work and pull them out a little bit more thoroughly. So I probably would have done the work with him eventually, but it was an example in tapping, so we tapped. Then we did the work, our second clearing technique, and we went through how the 4 questions, or the questions that we ask ourselves, and how they help the subconscious and work with the subconscious goals so that we can remove anything that doesn't meet with reality, because the other subconscious goal of the model is to hold only truth, and when we find out it isn't truth, the subconscious is happy to let it go. What's kind of fun, I didn't mention this before, I hit one of my roots one time, and I had an entire set of beliefs that went down, this should happen, and then this should happen, and this should be true, and this should be true. And when I finally got to the root, I started going back up and doing them, but I had done the root so thoroughly and completely, and the subconscious is a computer, it lives in the now. When I went to do one of the previous beliefs, and I read it off because I'd written it down, I was like, this isn't true. There's nothing true about this. There's no way I would believe this. And the only way I knew that I had that belief is because, one, I just experienced it. I could go to my memory banks and I could bring up my memory banks and relive it. But the model of the world, it wasn't true for my model anymore, which was really powerful. And so this happens very quickly, and the subconscious changes very fast, which is exciting because it means there's hope. We've all got these beliefs. I even have more beliefs that I need to continue to work on to pull these weeds out of our garden. When we weed a garden and we reconfigure it, that's wonderful. But it's going to take some maintenance. Even for me, it takes maintenance. And I'm still finding little things here and there, but I've gone for the big ones, and that has made all the difference. I've got my anxiety levels way, way down, and I feel much better because I've done that. And that's my hope for you, is that you'll take these techniques and you'll use them in your life, and you'll integrate them, and you'll really go for it. When my wife and I first found Loving What Is by Byron Katie, we spent the next 6 months together working on it, and it was a really powerful experience for us. Now, that's a good point. I should probably bring that up. The work is very powerful, and so is tapping. kind of changes how you react to things. They like your triggers. So if you're going to do this and you're in a relationship that you care about, it would be good to share this with your partner. Because if you don't and you change, it's going to change your relationship. And if your relationship is worth having in the first place, it might be worth having right now. So it probably is. There's some of you that probably should get out, but most of you should probably stick in this relationship that you're already in and make it work, because there's not someone better out there that is going to be better probably. Most of us who we're with is probably who we're best for. Now, use your best judgment. Don't just stick with someone, but that's going to be a lot of truth for most of us. So work with that person. Tell them what's going on. Communicate with them. Tell them what's going on inside your head, and then try to keep them appraised of how you change, what beliefs you're changing, and that sort of thing, so that they can be aware. If you start changing your reactions, that they can be aware of those. Because this is such a powerful belief, a powerful a mechanism of change, that we don't want to destroy our relationships just because we want to find more peace. In our relationship with my wife, during the period of time that we were doing the work and that, it was kind of a rough time, because we were trying to get used to the new person. How do they react now? How do they go? And that was uncomfortable at times. But let me tell you, our relationship now is stronger than it's ever been and more pleasant than it's ever been. It took us some time to work through and decide how things are going to work now that we've changed ourselves and changed how we act, but it was worth it. So highly recommend it. So let's see, we did tapping with an example with Jeff, then we did the work, and then we did another example, a little more lighthearted for some of us, on the toilet paper. That's really what I wanted to cover in this first set of episodes of Freedom 101. So thank you so much for joining me. So Freedom 102, we're going to go through the work more. We're going to get more examples. What I want to impart with you is, as I went through this, I found there were a lot of healthy emotional beliefs that are out there. I shared some of those with you when we talked about trying not to be in someone else's business, those sorts of things. Things that weren't intuitively known to me when I first started, but when I ended, I had a much better sense of that. What I want to do is give those to you, so it sort of jump-starts your process as you go through the work, so that you can understand them faster and not have to figure them out like I had to figure them out. Let me use my experience to give you a head start. So that's Freedom 102. You can check it out on AltitudeUniversity.com. There's probably right here, there's the copyright, not copyright, there's the watermark, and you can get it from there, or it's probably in the comments somewhere. Join us there. Don't stop. So now, do you need Freedom 102? No. I didn't have it, and I'm okay. I made it just fine. The only purpose for Freedom 102 is to give you a jump start on what's coming. A jump start on, and hopefully to get you excited to keep going. Because this is such a powerful mechanism to remove the fears out of your life and really feel connected to the real you. We're pulling out the stuff that isn't you to leave you with the real you. That's what I'm really hoping you're going to do. So I studied all the books that I mentioned. You can go on the internet and find other resources. I hope you're going to come with 102 and allow me to be part of your life a little bit longer, but you don't need it. It'd be good, but you're not going to have it. I feel like it would be a hard sell to just tell you have to have this. It's not needed. You can be okay without it. So thank you so much for joining me for this. I'm so glad you came to this point. I really hope at this point you're going to go off, you're going to start your tapping, you're going to start doing the work, that sort of thing. I hope most of you will join me for 102. We'll see. In the meantime, I hope you're healthy. I hope you're clearing going and your fears go away and you live in love. And we'll see you next time. Take care.